So I just read through all 37 pages of the lawsuit against Lizzo, her production company, and the captain of her dance squad. And wow, there is a lot in here. I want to try to just give you the highlights and also not get banned because some of this stuff is pretty wild. There are 9 different complaints in this lawsuit. Some of the complaints are all of the plaintiffs against all of the defendants being Lizzo, her production company, and her dance captain, Shirley Quigley. And some of the complaints are just 1 or 2 of the plaintiffs against maybe 1 or 2 of the defendants. The first complaint is hostile work environment. The second complaint is failure to prevent and or remedy hostile work environment. Third is religious harassment. Fourth is failure to prevent and or remedy religious harassment. Fifth is racial harassment. Sixth is disability discrimination. Seventh is intentional interference with prospective economic. 8 is assault. And 9 is false imprisonment. So 2 of the dancers we met on Lizzo's show, Watch Out for the Big Girls, and the third dancer was hired a little bit later. And we also met the dance captain, Shirley Quigley, who is named as a defendant in this suit. A lot of major claims in this lawsuit center around the dance captain, Shirley Quigley. And it seems, according to this lawsuit, like she was just this uber religious woman. And she was constantly trying to talk about the Lord and trying to convert people, and people were uncomfortable with it. And she was preaching about how premarital sex was bad. And then when she found out one of the dancers in this lawsuit, Ariana Davis, was a virgin, she became obsessed with this and would just bring it up and talk about it all the time, which obviously made her really uncomfortable. But then it's really strange because then even though she's uber religious and preaching all these things, she would also talk about weird sexual things in front of them. And they said that she had this what was called a party trick where she would use a banana to simulate, you know what I'm saying, with her mouth. And it was a thing she did. They say in this lawsuit that it didn't stop there with Quigley, and that in addition to doing this faux simulation with the banana, she would talk about how pleasing yourself, is against her religion, but that she'd be but oops, today I had an oopsie, which is just strange. And they said that, she would talk about these sort of sexually explicit comments so much that the entire dance team knew that her fantasy was having, let me see how I can put this, 10 eggplants in her face. They all knew this, apparently. Another of the allegations in this suit is that after performances, Lizzo would invite the dancers out for a night on the town. And one night in Amsterdam, she had this whole event in the red light district at this club where there was nude cabaret performers. And Ariana Davis says that she really didn't want to participate, but she was being egged on and basically forced to touch the breasts of one of the performer, even though she didn't want to. So what the dancers allege in the suit is that even though they didn't want to go to these places and they felt uncomfortable, they felt they had to for job security, because they said it was just sort of this unspoken, thing that dancers who participated in these extracurriculars got preferential treatment by Lizzo and had more job security. Now, where the racial discrimination comes in, the dancers say that the management team was mostly white people, and that the production team treated the Black members of the dance team differently than other members, and that allegedly they accused the Black members of the dance team of being lazy, unprofessional, and having bad attitudes. So then, according to this lawsuit, they get back from the European part of the tour, and Lizzo's just unhappy with all the dancers and says everyone has to re-audition and your jobs aren't safe. And if I don't like the way you audition, you're going to be fired. And that this audition allegedly turned into this 12-hour day where the dancers just felt scared to even leave the stage or they were going to get fired. So the one dancer, Davis, said she really had to use the bathroom, but was too scared. So ended up, urinating on herself. So then where the assault and false imprisonment comes in, so 2 of the dancers, Davis and Williams, were fired. And it was kind of embarrassing how they did it. They kind of did it publicly. And the other dancer, Rodriguez, didn't really like how that all went down. So she approached Lizzo and was I need to have a talk to you about how you handled the situation. And According to Rodriguez in this complaint, she said that Lizzo got really aggressive, approached her, cracking her knuckles, balling her fists, and exclaiming, "You're lucky, you're so effing lucky." And she says that she believes that Lizzo intended to hit her and would have done so if one of the other dancers hadn't intervened. And then the false imprisonment comes because Davis said that, she had been accused of recording, or she had recorded a conversation that had happened, but she said that, she has this anxiety disability where she can't really process it in the moment. She needs to record things and listen to it later. And the management team and Lizzo were like, "You recorded this conversation," got mad. So when they fired her, they allegedly kept her in this room, went through her phone until they could see that she had deleted the file. There's still so much more to unpack with this lawsuit. And now I'm also seeing that other dancers are posting in their stories, sort of corroborating what the dancers in this lawsuit are saying and saying they had similar experiences. So I'm going to keep sharing more as I get more information. As I dig into the details of this lawsuit against Lizzo's production company, and the captain of the dance squad, there are two overarching themes that carry out throughout this entire complaint. One, the captain of the dance squad, Shirlene Quigley, allegedly was extremely pushy about her religious beliefs to the point that it made the other dancers extremely uncomfortable. And in addition to this pushy religious behavior, because she was their supervisor, there were times that she was allegedly acting very inappropriate, and it went unchecked because she was their supervisor. And two, it seems that Lizzo's biggest mistake was blurring that line between, employer, employee, and friends. Some of the allegations in this lawsuit are that Lizzo or associates of Lizzo would invite the dancers to strip clubs, and there would be performers shooting bananas out of their hoo-has, and the dancers would catch them, or they'd be asked to eat a banana out of places on the performers. All behavior that an employer should not be engaging in with their employee. That is reserved for your closest ride or die friends. Also, what's interesting as reading through this lawsuit is, we know Lizzo obviously as a celebrity, and all celebrity, and that's all we know about her. And it's hard to sometimes separate what is the real person versus what is the persona, because we don't know that. So for instance, one of the claims is about assault, and one of the dancers talked about how they confronted Lizzo after they didn't like how one of the other dancers was fired, and allegedly Lizzo got really mad, cracked her knuckles, balled up her fist, and that allegedly, there was going to be an altercation if one of the other dancers hadn't, broken it up. And what the dancer alleges is that as Lizzo was leaving the room, she threw up her middle fingers and yelled, "Bye, bitch." Now, we've all seen the viral videos of, Lizzo doing that. So it's easy for us to believe that could happen. But then it's also would an employer do this to an employee? It just seems so insane. But I think ultimately this is going to come down to just proof of what was reported and what was ignored by management. Another of the allegations made in this suit is that there was a bus driver, and one of the dancers brushed past him, and he said something like, "Oh, you can back that thing on up close to me." And they allegedly made complaints to the management team about how there was inappropriate behavior, but nothing was done. So if there was people at the top that were getting complaints and nothing was being done, this is where they're going to have real issues. Also, I want to address the fat shaming and body shaming that was being talked about, because obviously that was the most shocking part of the allegations that were coming out. Now, it's not included in the actual lawsuit because fat shaming isn't illegal, so they're not suing for that, but they do talk about it in the lawsuit. So there were no instances of people, calling other people fat or anything like that. That didn't go down. But what happened is one of the dancers said that she had been putting on weight, and she noticed it and felt like that management and Lizzo noticed it, and that they were inferring that, some of her issues could be related to that weight gain, but they never said it. It was all inferred. And then another allegation is that after one of the other dancers got fired, is that Lizzo, said, weight gain could be cause for termination. And the dancer alleges that she looked right at her and felt she was talking specifically about her. And while I've, heard of weight gain being cause for termination, it's usually at a place like Hooters where you have to wear the specific uniforms. So I do think it was surprising, to hear that allegedly weight gain could be cause for termination in this instance. But again, we have to hear the other side of the story. There will be responses to this complaint. And so, maybe we'll see the bigger picture, but overall, it's still just really, So in addition to dancers who are starting to come forward to share their experiences of working with Lizzo, other creators who have worked with Lizzo are sharing their stories as well. Sophia Allison says she worked on Lizzo's documentary for about 2 weeks before walking away. She says, I usually don't comment on anything pop culture related, but in 2019, I traveled a bit with Lizzo to be the director of her documentary. I walked away after about 2 weeks. I was treated with such disrespect by her. I witnessed how arrogant, self-centered, and unkind she is. I was not protected and was thrown into a shitty situation with little support. You can pause to read the rest of this, but then she followed it up with another story. She says, to be clear, since I've spoken out, I've had others privately share their very similar experiences, and I've also been affirmed by people who witnessed what I went through. Lizzo creates an extremely toxic and hostile working environment and undermines the work, labor, and authority of other Black and brown women in the process. Notice how the documentary ended up being directed by a cis white man. Sophia goes on to say, she is a narcissistic bully and has built her brand off of lies. I was excited to support and protect a Black woman through the documentary process, but quickly learned her image and message was a curated facade. I stand with the dancers and anyone who has had similar experiences working with her and her team. These working conditions are not okay. A makeup artist who also has worked with Lizzo also posted a story saying, I've seen that some folks have recently gone the route of suing a popular musician who they were employed by because of mistreatment. She says, I wasn't strong enough to move that way, but sometimes I wish I would have. I never wanted to be the squeaky wheel, but I'm still empowered tonight by those who are. She ended by saying, ego is a treacherous demon. Still no comment from Lizzo's camp yet, but I expect with all of these stories coming forward, a statement will have to come out sooner than later. Lizzo has responded to the lawsuit and the allegations against her. She says, these last few days have been gut-wrenchingly difficult and overwhelmingly disappointing. My work ethic, morals, and respectfulness have been questioned. My character has been criticized. Usually I choose not to respond to false allegations, but these are as unbelievable as they sound and too outrageous to not be addressed. These sensationalized stories are coming from former employees who have already publicly admitted that they were told their behavior on tour was inappropriate and unprofessional. As an artist, I have always been very passionate about what I do. I take my music and my performances seriously because at the end of the day, I only want to put out the best art that represents me and my fans. With passion comes hard work and high standards. Sometimes I have to make hard decisions, but it's never my intention to make anyone feel uncomfortable or like they aren't valued as an important part of the team. I am not here to be looked at as a victim, but I also know that I'm not the villain that people and the media have portrayed me to be these last few days. I'm very open with my sexuality and expressing myself, but I cannot accept or allow people to use that openness to make me out to be something I am not. There is nothing I take more seriously than the respect we deserve as women in the world. I know what it feels like to be body shamed on a daily basis and would absolutely never criticize or terminate an employee because of their weight. I'm hurt, but I will not let the good work I've done in this world be overshadowed by this. I want to thank everyone who has reached out in support to lift me up during this difficult time. TMZ has gotten footage of Ariana Davis praising Lizzo. Ariana is one of the dancers suing Lizzo, and this video footage is from April 2023, and apparently Ariana was auditioning for season 2 of Watch Out for the Big Girls. So in this video from April 2023, Ariana says she's auditioning to be a singer. She says that she's been a dancer for the past year and that it's been great and that she looks up to Lizzo and wants to be like her, but she wants to audition as a singer. And now Lizzo's lawyer, Marty Singer, is saying, these don't sound like the words of someone who was harassed and discriminated against. So now we really need to know when exactly in April 2023 that audition tape was recorded, because I went back to the lawsuit, and April 20th, 2023, according to this lawsuit, is when there was that 12-hour audition that Ariana says that she was too scared to leave the stage and ended up soiling herself. And then April 21st, 2023, according to this lawsuit, is when Ariana was called into that meeting to, kind of discuss her weight. They didn't talk specifically about the weight, but it was being inferred, and where she says she had to admit to her binge eating disorder and anxiety. And then according to this lawsuit, when they were confronted about the secret recording that was made, it was apparently made on April 27th, 2023. Ariana admitted to making the recording, saying because of her disability, TMZ she needed to record this. And then I believe she was terminated around maybe May 3rd, May 4th. According to TMZ, Ariana made those comments about praising Lizzo after the European leg of the tour. Now, the European leg of the tour is when allegedly the strip club, the cabaret club, the banana incidents happened. And TMZ says that those allegations involved alleged incidents before she shot this interview video for the second season of Watch Out for the Big Girls. Now that Lizzo's lawyer is involved, there's definitely going to be some duking it out happening in the court of public opinion before it even makes it, if it even makes it to actual court.